lonely spider longing for love once more.
Hey, hi.
Hey.
This is a new thing for us. I'm gonna move this over so okay. Hi everyone. It's, this is Bookmark Bookmark Live. This is a new thing we're trying out, and so there may be a few issues here and there. But I wanted to say that we're going live on Facebook, and then we'll post this on YouTube later. Yeah. So you had a statement you wanted to make, and so I wanted to.
Okay. So bear with us as we go through some technical challenges. This is the first time that we've done this, so we'll see how well we can pull it off. But one of the things that I noticed, there was some strange personality issues coming out on social media. And I was like, okay, what in the world is going on? And I realized that in about, I want to say about 2 weeks, or in about a week and a half, we're going to have Easter. We're going to have another holiday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I remember around Christmas time, around Thanksgiving, actually, is when I first started to witness this sort of personality zeitgeist and these personality changes happening in social media, as well as, like in the real world. Suddenly my phone started blowing up and my friends were texting me and calling me every day and talking about how they were so anxious that they were going to be meeting with their family for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And they were worried about, things like, I had one friend say, well, my family is forcing me to get the COVID test. And I had another friend say, my family is really pressuring me to do this. So there was a lot of anxiety and a lot of personality conflicts that were coming up and creating a lot of stress in people's lives. And I noticed that this behavior is starting to come back. And I said to myself, okay, what's going on? And I realized it's Easter. And, I spent a good hour and a half texting with my very good friend last night, and he was explaining his anxiety around sort of a family reunion situation that's coming up around Easter time. And his whole family, his entire family, has bought into this whole COVID thing, and they're really pressuring him to either get tested or get the vaccine. And they all come from sort of the liberal class. And I'm noticing that this kind of like anxious behavior and this anxious dialogue is, is transferring into other kinds of dialogue. For instance, somebody who we don't even know on social media. We've never met this person. We barely know who she is. Decided to armchair analyze JP and say the system and the powers that be and the Illuminati or whatever had made him angry. When that's not really the case.
Right.
If JP is angry, it's because he worked very hard to carve out a success for himself. He went to all the right classes. He followed his parents' instructions. He followed the liberal class's ideology for years, for his entire life, only to turn out, poor. And so that is a good reason to be angry. That's justifiable anger. And that's not something that we can blame the Illuminati on.
Well, and am I really angry? I think that there's critique.
Right.
And I think that in this day and age that there's a lot of misconception between what the difference between the two are.
Right.
And you can have, like Julie said, justifiable anger and have it come out as critique, or you can have critique that is harsh against what's going on. Okay. And this person seems very trolly to me. And so I'm not really sure what was, what the motivation was to say things like that, because first of all, you don't know who I am. you can learn who I am by watching these shows.
You could
You don't know
probably
my
gain
story,
you could gain a lot of insight into us
by
because
watching our videos.
by watching our video essays, because
right.
we make it very clear that we are diagnosing the Great Reset from a class perspective. I hope you guys can hear us okay. Like I said, we're trying out a way to stream our bookmarks. So if you have any issue with audio or visual, just let us know in the chat or something.
Yeah.
But so this sort of behavior that I see coming out in social media, or in real life as well, because like I said, a friend of mine had me on the phone for a long time last night, and he was really concerned about what would be the outcome of this holiday experience that was sort of sprung on him last minute. And he said it felt very strange, but at the same time, he's been, behaving like a good little citizen and locking down and only going out when it's absolutely necessary. And he's anxious to go on a little road trip and see his family. And, so I really sympathize with what he's going through. But I'm also aware that the holidays always bring, whether you have COVID or not, the holidays always bring a layer of anxiety. And, within your family dynamic, you've got, narcissists and scapegoats and enablers and golden children and the golden child. And a lot of what I'm seeing in sort of the analysis of the Great Reset is it feels as though the people that are really good at analyzing the Great Reset, and they've totally got it right, are like maybe the golden children in their families. Like maybe their parents were the ones to put their pretty little pictures on the refrigerator every day and say, oh, this person is like the most brilliant and precious child that we could ever have. Whereas somebody like me and JP, we grew up in households where our parents barely remembered our names. So you can see that even in this, wonderful analysis of the Great Reset and all the people that bring, their vast knowledge and all their hard work to the front, that they may be in competition. Maybe they've got some narcissistic traits, and whatever reason those, people have those traits. There are their own reasons, and I don't judge them for that, because we all come from our unique backgrounds. JP and I come from a position of having worked very hard, almost to the point of working ourselves to death, only to have our careers and our friends and our family completely turn their back on us and leave us kind of twisting in the wind, where we had to do some pretty scary, radical things in order to just have a roof over our head.
Yeah.
So a lot of people didn't have to go through that. So what I really appreciate is all of the information that comes forward, and it comes through all of these imperfect people who come from, their various backgrounds and their various issues and their various positions in their family, many of which are the golden children or the narcissists. And not a lot of attention is given to those who were designated as scapegoats. Now, I'm a firm believer in moving past that role. I am no longer the designated scapegoat in my family hierarchy, because I've removed myself from that position by going something called no contact.
But you know, I have to say though, I mean, it's hard to get out of that role if you've had that as part of your life, your entire life, right? So you'll get into situations, and I find this to be the case. It doesn't matter what it is. It's one of those things where it's like, it's usually when you're minding your own business,
right,
that
suddenly
these kinds of things will come up. So you always have to be on guard if you're aware of your past designation as a scapegoat, to avoid getting into those situations again. And so oftentimes it's difficult, because it's tiring to have to remind yourself and like to stay in a specific place when you're engaging with other people or when you're out in public. And I forget who it was. Oh, I think it was, we were watching a podcaster who was talking about her sister getting attacked out in public. And she said she was minding her own business. And that's always that's always when it happens, right? So if you are one of these, the type of personality types that we are, where, we've had a history of being scapegoated, or being that family member who is the designated scapegoat, that you have to be mindful of that. And the way to avoid it is to, like I said, be mindful, but you have to keep your guard up, and not in a hostile way, but just be aware of what's going on, and your role, because we do have a role in that,
Mm-hmm.
and our role is falling into those old patterns.
Right.
So, it's a matter of, like, first understanding what those patterns are, and then understanding how to get around them. And then third, when to apply them, and when not to just fall into those old patterns.
Right. So I wanted to bring that up because the holiday is coming. It's Easter for some of us. And if you don't celebrate Easter, then there are other religious holidays that are coming up that you might find yourself once again, like you were back in, the fall, or back in the winter. Thanksgiving and Christmas and the New Year's could have brought forth a lot of anxiety that, will be amplified in the age of COVID, unfortunately. So that brings me to this idea that there are narcissists in our family dynamic, and there are narcissists all over social media. And of course, there's narcissistic behavior coming through those people that are issuing or instituting the practices of, poverty and the class war that's on us. These are very cutthroat, narcissistic people. And that brings me to Jordan Peterson.
Yeah. Okay.
He is a very narcissistic individual. He's trending now all over social media. Earlier this morning, I did a very quick, 13-minute audio about the dangers of Jordan Peterson, on Facebook, on my own Facebook page. I just wanted to say, hey, look, I might be bringing this up in this podcast, and so I am. He's a narcissistic personality that is, he did the classic narcissistic maneuver, which was he made himself very relevant for many years, and he made himself the cannon fodder for the left and the right, so to speak. And he became this really controversial character, so he became lifted up, which narcissists love attention. They love any kind of attention. It can be negative, it can be positive, it doesn't matter. And then all of a sudden he disappeared, which is another classic narcissistic move. I'm going to give them everything they want, and then I'm going to take away and make them miss me. And now he's back because he wrote a book, and he's dropping some leftist tropes that people are getting really excited about. And I just want to caution people to look at Jordan Peterson and his rise in popularity again through a critical lens.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, you may not even know who he is. And if that's the case, don't worry about it. You don't need to,
He's very polarizing.
He's very polarizing.
Yeah.
And, so I noticed that, and then we can kind of transition into what we were going to talk about today. So I wanted to get that out of the way.
Right.
I wanted to say, once again, that I'm sensing and seeing a lot of anxious behavior on social media. I'm seeing it in real life as well. I'm hearing it from my good friends who are texting me and calling me, from all over the country and saying, I'm concerned about, this holiday that's coming up. And that's normal. Those are normal anxious feelings to have, and they're amplified under
under this situation.
They really are.
And in our town, we just heard some gunshots the other night.
Last night.
Was it last night?
Yeah. And last night.
Yeah. And and we both know that these are this is not criminal behavior. This is terrorism, basically. Terrorism from
It's
some
psychological
operatives
war.
that are going on, and I'm sure that this is happening in other places in the country, to go along with the other events that are taking place that are, resulting in weekend, vigils and things of that matter. These they feel inauthentic. These sort of protests that pop up as a result of these events that take place. So I'll just leave it at that, because we don't want to get into that. We don't want to go into Devilu Signan territory.
Oh God, whatever. I mean, she served a purpose, and she really helped a lot of people.
And we have other things to talk about anyway.
But
so
so this brings us into the let's maybe talk about what happened on March 20th. I think in general, when you have these kind of events where people are really trying to get their point across, that you've got, all of these wonderful people bringing all this information, fighting for the stage, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's like watching a couple of different narcissists try to duke it out. And it's really kind of, it's kind of funny because, having, knowing the narcissistic personality type and seeing it amplified under the Great Reset diagnosis. It's becoming kind of funny to watch. Right. But we had a situation in Pittsburgh where there was great confusion about what was really what. So there was an authentic World Demonstration Day that was supposed to take place in a park that's only about 15 minutes from our house, which is great. It was supposed to start at noon. Well, it turned out a local media personality, a big narcissist, co-opted the event. It started at 9 and was going to travel to where it was going to eventually be. And we didn't want any part of it because it turned instead of it turning into a challenge of authority and a challenge of the state, it was more like USA, which we're not really.
Yeah. And it was
really like,
it was more about nationalism than and freedom filtered through the lens of nationalism. Right. As opposed to autonomy and human rights and things of that nature.
Right.
And as it was also very classic narcissist move in that they started it earlier and then they were going to end it at the same time the other one was supposed to begin at the same place the other one was supposed to take place. So they started in one place and then traveled over to the other.
Right.
And the reason I say it's a classic narcissist move is because, we're not taking away from your event at all. Not at all.
No.
Ours is a different time, you see.
It's different.
And we're going to bring ours to yours. So it's not a co-optation of any kind at all. No, we're not taking away from yours at all. We're in fact, we're helping yours. So
that's why we're
classic,
talking,
that was a very classic move. And, and so it goes along with the diagnosis we've been talking about, or Julie's been talking about up till now. So it was, it was very odd. And then when we did get there, we got there late, but
about 2:00. But we figured that there would be people like out on the lawn. There's a big wide open space of lawn where people could sit and play, volleyball or catch or have a picnic. And we thought that at least there would be a few people there. There was nobody there. Mm-hmm. So now we have a clip of the wrong demonstration just to give you an idea of what we're talking about for Pittsburgh. Did you grab it? The Pittsburgh one where they have the flags and everything?
I didn't upload it. I can do it real quick.
Yeah, why don't you grab it?
Okay.
Sorry. See, we're there it is. Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay.
So we'll show a few minutes of this, or a couple seconds.
It's pretty quick,
of this, just so that you can see why we didn't go to this one.
Okay. All right. So,
and by the way, this was actually provided by our patron and friend Josette.
Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you for that, because this is exactly what we were looking for.
Right. Exactly. So good.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's watch it.
USA!
Okay.
So yeah, so you can see why we didn't go, because it was just nothing but an impeach Wolf USA thing. This wasn't anything having to do with challenging fascism
Right.
and challenging, the transition into fascism that our country is experiencing
And there were,
has experienced.
and the flags that were being flown. There was one, I noticed there was a flag that was a variation on the American flag. That's a very reactionary flag. I forget what the organization or the people, the group that's associated with it, but it's very extreme right-wing crowd. So I'm not interested in being around that. And then I've never been a fan of the yellow snake flag. So, we do, like we have friends, who are in that tendency. So we don't write everybody off, obviously.
No, of course not. But that's not what we wanted.
And at the same time, though, it's also your intent when you're displaying colors or when you're doing something. It's one thing to have an opinion and a tendency, political tendency, and an opinion or a way of thinking about something. It's another thing about it's one thing to fly the American flag, right? It's another to stomp around and say USA while you're flying the American flag.
Impeach Wolf, doesn't. Yes, he needs to be impeached. They all need to be impeached. I mean, the whole system needs an overhaul. But
we're
not arguing that.
But the thing is, with the impeachment trials that are going on, these are just we've talked about this before, where they are a means of getting rid of the people that are basically not in power anymore anyway. I mean, Wolf is still governor, but as we see it,
he doesn't have any power.
Right. Yeah. The state compacts that are forming are going to be taking away the power from the states and putting the power into the region and those corporate public-private partnerships that are going on. So, right. Wolf may have a role in the future interstate compact, but right now it's a period of limbo. Mm-hmm. He has not shown up to his office in the state capitol since the beginning of all this.
Right.
And so he's unavailable. He makes speeches remotely, and nobody has access to him. So what does that tell you? It tells me that there's something going on where he is using what power he does have and trying to avoid any way of exposing the fact that he doesn't have any power.
Right. And so this idea of, this is a little bit of a nuanced, complicated topic, but we're going to try to tackle it. You can love your country, and you can come out in droves, and you can demand that the fascism be removed from your country because you're seeing it coming through COVID. Like all the COVID policies are instituting fascism. So it's okay to say, look, my country, I'm from my country, I love my country, and I don't want this corruption and this fascism and this class war to define it. I don't want that allowed in, and that's okay. That kind of patriotism is really okay. But unfortunately, the United States' idea of patriotism is a little more, what's the term that you were asking me about the other day? Entitled or anyway.
Yeah, the word is not coming to me either.
We discussed it the other day. And so our patriotism, if we show patriotism to the outside world, it comes across as being,
Oh, I know the word that you're using. Yeah, the word that you're looking for. And it goes along with
exceptionalism.
Exceptionalism, that's right. The word. Yeah.
So when the United States citizens, display an act of patriotism to the world looks at us as though, oh, there goes the United States again, thinking that they're being exceptional. And that may not be the case. And it's unfortunately the onlooker's perception of the patriotism that seems to be the only thing that matters,
Well,
as opposed to what the people are really feeling about their country.
Right. Yeah. And this is a trait that's been attributed to the United States since its beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And, I think one of the best illustrations of that was that video. And I just saw, a GIF of it the other day when Trump first became president, and he showed up with it was like the G20 or something.
Right.
And he shoved his way in front of everybody and then
yeah, so that to other people, especially people,
and I think that was also
outside of the country, that's how they think the United States thinks of themselves, that we're this hegemonious, bloviating, bullying country that's just going to push our way through and muscle our way through our various industrial complexes, which isn't far
or
from
psychological complexes,
which is kind of true. So,
well.
But it's okay. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is that there wasn't a whole lot of cities that came out during World Demonstration Day and did what it was meant for, which was to fight and call out the fascism, or encourage people to fight against the fascism that's taking over their communities. Mm-hmm. There wasn't a lot of that. The only city that really did keep it real was New York. And, thanks to Helen who lives in New York, and Allison, who lives in Philly, but traveled to New York for the World Demonstration Day. They told me there were actually two parks that were simultaneously having two different protests. So the one park, Washington Park, which is in Greenwich Village, which is just crawling with liberals and has been completely consumed with public-private partnership type ideology.
Right. So that neighborhood. Yeah.
That neighborhood, Washington Park, was where, impeach Cuomo and stop Asian hate was taking place. And we have a clip of the impeach Cuomo.
So let me run that.
Someone who abuses their power doesn't just do it to one woman or one community. They do it on some level to every person and every community.
Lindsay.
So, so we grabbed that from a news clip
right.
about it. Now, there were two things going on at that park in Washington Square Park and in New York. And so the one was, the Cuomo, the anti, the bring down Cuomo. Mm-hmm. And now, was that actually the same day as the protests on Saturday, or was that another action that took place?
No, this is what was so confusing about it, is that impeach Cuomo and stop Asian hate took place in Washington Square Park.
Well, I was just wondering if it was
on the same day that World Demonstration Day, which is, hey, let's fight the fascism and the technocracy, took place in Union Park. So two different parks,
right.
Same day. So if you're not there, and of course, social media and mainstream media were suppressing everything going on. So it was difficult for us to
pick it apart,
to get, to even know that there were two different parks that were having two different demonstrations. So I was corrected. Thank you for that, to Helen and Allison.
My question, Julie, is do you know if that clip that I just played, if that was actually from Saturday or if that was from a protest before?
No, that was from Saturday.
Okay, all right.
That was, I found it, and that was from Saturday. Okay. So, and you can see that people were wearing Black Lives Matter masks. So it was a completely different.
There was also the messaging going on about it was about tax the rich.
Right.
Right. So again, these leftist
tropes,
messages and what ideas and demands from the past are being co-opted by the Democrats and the liberals, and bringing that into their own so that they can co-opt it, water it down, and let it go away. Right. So
we got no footage from Union Park, which was the good demonstration, which is the one that I wanted to go to. I was really hoping for a miracle that we could afford to rent a car and maybe go there. And because, I haven't yet had a chance to meet Allison yet, or Helen, and Kevin was going to be there. Kevin Jenkins, who we had a great conversation with a few weeks ago on this
Mhm.
platform. You know, I wanted to meet all these great people, and I didn't see any indication that even anything was happening until after it happened and people started to share little bits of videos here and there. And then Allison actually did make a nice little video on her YouTube channel. So there is some evidence that some really good things happened at Union Square, and Harry Vox was there,
Right.
another very dynamic character that had to share the stage with Allison, who's also a dynamic character. So I can imagine that would have been interesting.
So we're going to
But-
try to put that together into a sketchbook, I think.
Yeah, so we have little compilations of little
Yeah.
bits and pieces,
There-
and
there's
we're
one-
going to turn it into a separate video.
There's one little piece that I would like to play because I wanted to show the joy
Oh,
of
sure.
the thing.
Yeah.
So let me find that one real quick. Let's see. Oh,
Do you have it?
yeah, I do. It's let me see here. Oh, I know where it is. Okay, it's our file structure is a little structured. Videos.
It's under video sketchbook.
Yeah, there it is. And then this is the street. No, not street interview. This is street theater.
The Street Theater.
Yeah, this is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Take a second to upload.
Just
it.
really quickly,
it's a
we'll
very-
we'll have you take a look at it. It's
Yeah.
really funny.
Yeah.
It's really good. So this is the kind of creativity and the kind of really good stuff that's going to come out. We're going to get, you know, I can totally see that there will be a new art movement springing up.
Okay.
Check it out.
Check it out.
Vaccine connection, big pharma, little Fauci and me. Who said that one day you don't need an ID injected right under your skin?
That was
So that gives you an idea of what happened at Union Square Park, or Union Park, which is it's Union Square or Union Park, because I know Union Square Park is in San Francisco. But
So there's a Union Square in San Francisco, and
and
there's a
in-
Union Square in New York. Yeah.
So it was
Mhm.
Union Square Park.
Mhm.
So yeah, so we have some more footage that's similar to that, and a lot of really excellent. Frida, another one of our friends and patrons, has been forwarding some really good stuff on her channel of African music, I think.
Yeah, we found. Yeah, there was a good. It was a trio. They
so-
were playing marimba and shikari and
Yeah, and
some-
what I really loved is that the guy, I meant to tell you this before, and which was it was kind of like, I can't believe how magical this was. So we went to Pittsburgh, Point Stake Park in Pittsburgh, and there was nobody there. So we brought our drum with us, and JP sat on the wall and he started playing the drums, and I recorded him, and it was really, really beautiful. You know, the sound, you can't quite pick it up with the camera phone.
Well, it's called a tongue drum, so
But-
it's a hand pan.
But whatever, it worked. It worked really well. And then, so later on, you know, we came home and I started looking through social media, and Frida posted this really amazing set with these people who were playing music. And so I went to their page and I saw that the person who was in charge of this
Mhm.
musical ensemble, he had written a poem about drums.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it felt really it felt good. It felt
Yeah.
like, okay, by him playing the drums on Saturday, even though nobody was there, it felt like we were participating in our own way
Yeah.
somehow.
Right.
So that
And
was
you can see. Did you post that on Facebook on our
Mhm.
on our channel?
on yours. Yeah. Oh, and on
my
Book
thing?
of Hours
On
as
Book of
well.
Hours.
Yeah.
You can find that there.
Yeah. We might incorporate that into the video we make as well.
So there were
So-
two. So it felt like the worldwide demonstration day was the whole world minus the United States,
It kind of felt like that,
Yeah.
except for New York.
except for New York.
Applause to New York
Yeah.
for actually bringing it.
Pittsburgh, as you saw, was like that. We had some.
Mm-hmm.
We're having technical difficulties because we're not able to show you still graphics. some people sent us some images
Yes.
that we wanted to show, and then we can't do that because I can't figure out a way to show still images. So
Yeah, they
we're
won't
gonna
let us show still
gonna-
images on
I'm gonna
this.
figure out how to do
feed.
that with this if I can ever. But we do have some video of some of the things that what took place around the world, mostly in Europe. But there's some video from Australia and from Canada. So let's
And I'm sure you guys have seen this, but
Yeah.
it's nice to see the difference between, say, like what we showed you from Pittsburgh earlier in this broadcast, and now what we're going to show you from Europe.
Okay, so we're going to start with Amsterdam, and we're going to move around. So let's go here. This is London. Yeah,
Is our mic still on?
I just turned it on. Yeah, this is London. We got a lot of different.
I'm sure you guys have seen this one. There's a lot of stuff coming out.
This is Leicester Square. This is Lisbon in Portugal.
Portugal, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Did we show Ontario?
No,
too?
not yet. I'm going to do that next.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right.
This is amazing! So, what I have to say, I don't expect everyone to agree with, but it's what I have seen, what I believe, and what I feel. We are living in the biblical end of days!
All right. That's enough of that.
What's that?
This is in Belgium.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So multi languages going on.
Are we muted? Or?
No, we're not. Liberté.
Liberté? That's good.
Yeah. This I was told was in Switzerland. Let's watch this. Whoa.
So this demonstration. Are we muted?
No, we're not.
Okay.
But the video was. There was no sound
Right.
associated.
So this demonstration was popular last year when they did the first demonstration, and I know that somebody in Vermont, a popular podcaster in Vermont, who I'm sure most of you are familiar with, did a recreation of it.
Yeah.
But it originated in
Switzerland.
Switzerland or
Yeah,
Germany.
now this looks different than that because this.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they're wearing white outfits, but these were clearly these were zombies. Where those people were like, they were vaccine medical gear and stuff, and they had like armbands on them and stuff. So yeah. Let's see what else we have.
Do we have anything else? There's a lot out there, and I'm sure you guys have seen it all.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much it. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, we covered it. Oh, Melbourne. Melbourne was the most fun. Let's watch that. I like this guy that says free hugs and handshakes on the left there.
No masks. Love it. Everyone's just hanging out. Just trying to get their life back.
Yeah, so that was Melbourne, Australia. So
yeah.
So there
Good
were
stuff.
there's lots of people coming out all over the world, and we were happy to see that. We made an attempt to see if Pittsburgh would play, but it didn't seem to work.
They're not really.
And like we were saying before, I mean, there were different factions kind of trying to co-opt it. And here's the other thing too. It was very empty in the park. And so I think there was some co-optation going on from the right and the left in the case of Pittsburgh, because at the same time as, in New York, we had a protest downtown in Pittsburgh that was about or it was in Lawrenceville, something like that.
It was in Oakland.
Oakland, okay, near the universities, of course.
Yeah,
that were about the stop anti-Asian hate.
Stop Asian hate.
Asian hate, yeah. Stop Asian hate. That's right. The anti-Asian hate. Yeah.
So, this is what. So it's really important to understand the distinction between World Demonstration Day, which is people coming out to challenge the fascist technology takeover of their world, and lockdowns, which are very anti-life. We don't like to use the term lockdown because that's a prison term, and we're not prisoners. But that's what it's been. And all of this is anti-life. Mm-hmm. It's anti-human experience. And that is actually a legitimate grassroots real thing to demonstrate against. When your very life when you have to do everything through a mask, or you have to do everything through the mandates of COVID, then we have a problem. Mm-hmm. But what I like to call the outrage industrial complex is, all of the hashtag movements that if you it suddenly one day it doesn't exist. And then the very next day, all of a sudden, if you go hashtag stop Asian hate on Twitter, it's got its own Twitter account with 3 million followers. All of a sudden, everybody's talking about it. So these are generated social movement organizations that are bought and paid for, and they buy your outrage and they buy your emotion, and your emotions are pure. People may be coming out legitimately and saying, hey, look, I knew an Asian woman who was attacked years ago, and I may go out to the Stop Asian Hate rally legitimately thinking, yes, I want to make sure
my
I want to support, this. But unfortunately, my pure of heart, legitimate emotion is being co-opted by social movement organizations that are invested in creating more problems. So nothing really gets resolved.
And creating a situation or creating something to put your energy into that takes it away from what's actually taking place.
Right.
Right. So, it seemed very convenient to me that this Stop Asian Hate movement and reason for doing it even happened to come up at the same time as something that was planned already to worldwide to go up against the fascism that's taking place in terms of keeping people in their homes and closing down businesses and making people wear devices that they don't need to wear. And this is all a distraction, and it's intended to be a distraction. Mm-hmm. And it's an highly charged emotional type of situation that allows people to put their energy into it and feel like they're doing something positive. Whereas in reality, they're spinning their wheels, they're putting their energy into it. It will disperse, it will go away, and then the next thing will come up.
Right. That's why it's called the outrage industrial complex.
Well, hashtag me too, Julie.
Right. And then hashtag BLM, and then hashtag stop hate, Asian hate, and then hashtag stop, trans hate, and then hashtag stop gay hate, and hashtag this and hashtag that. It will never end. This is something that I think I probably said back in 2015 or 2016, which kind of got me into so much trouble, especially in San Francisco, when I said your life is nothing more than a series of outrageous events which are pulling your unique offerings to the world, pulling them out of you and throwing them away until there's nothing left of you, until it's just an entire life of 2 minutes of hate from 1984.
Right.
Oh man, that got me into so much trouble in liberal San Francisco, which is where the outrage industrial complex was born.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Never underestimate the pernicious liberal ever.
Yeah.
So the other thing I wanted to remind people is that it's been over a year, and the businesses and the people that have been most negatively affected by these mandates and these measures that are coming from corporations and coming from governors is the Black community. More Black businesses had to shut down in this. They were trying to do the right thing. Most of the businesses around here are Black-owned businesses.
Yeah.
And, where we live. And, to me, that is what defines racism, is when you target a specific community of people that are bringing their own, value to that community, and they're bringing the economy into the community in their own way, in their own individual way, and you specifically target them and undermine their business and undermine their footprint on your street.
Well, and then also, like, this past summer with the protests in like Minneapolis and Seattle, and we've talked about this before, where the fires and the protests and the violence took place in neighborhoods that were, in fact, African American, right? So the damage was done to the very communities that were supposedly being uplifted in the protests. And so, as we've pointed out before, someone that we follow said that if you looked at the map of the burning, it looked more like a real estate redevelopment, acquisition map. Yeah, an acquisition map, rather than random violence and fires from a riot. Yeah. Right, because something like that would be random, whereas this looked and appeared very targeted.
Yeah, totally.
And consistent.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think we have covered March 20th. I think we've covered some of the, the issues that are coming about in people's lives, because we're getting closer to another holiday, which always brings up anxiety and, a breakdown in good, positive communication, because people are just stressed. They're really stressed about having to, deal with all of this through COVID. It's hard enough to, be around people that probably didn't like you very much to begin with anyway, and then to have to deal with them, under this COVID crap is just, it's too much.
Yeah.
That's why I highly recommend the no contact rule, but you choose what's best for you. So, did you want to talk about? Why don't we talk about what Dawn brought to our attention?
Okay, unfortunately we can't show you the
picture.
The headline was basically talking about how the number of COVID tests, coronavirus tests. Because at least they did it right this time, because there's a difference between a coronavirus and COVID. Okay, we've talked about this before. The headline was coronavirus tests down, across the country, basically. And so what we were sent was a still image. We didn't see the video, and I was unable to find it, so I can't present it to you. But it was like a CBS news, probably local news. I don't know if it was local or national. But based on the headline that we could tell, the story was not about tests, right? It was about something else, and that something else is it's not. Yeah, so it's not about the falling number of tests. It's really about nudging people to get the test. Now, the sub headline was basically more home tests are being rolled out. Okay, meaning that they're finding that people are not going to these centers anymore to get tested. I wish we had that video of that guy asking for the anal swab, because that was hilarious. And that basically tells you.
I'm telling you, the younger generation that's coming out against
this stuff.
the Great Reset and against everything are so funny. They're really bringing a lot of comedy to this. If you're not following Darren Dutton, he's from the UK, but if you're not following Darren Dutton on YouTube or on Twitter, and I think he has a Facebook presence as well, you should, because you will get a good laugh, and you need a good laugh.
And we've posted some of his things here on Bookmark before.
Yeah.
But
so what Dawn, who is a good friend of ours and also a patron, what she brought to our attention was this headline from CBS, and it says coronavirus testing has been falling since January. That's what the headline reads. But what it's really telling you is that people are not getting tested anymore, right? I mean, isn't that right? People are not getting tested anymore.
And the assumption that's being made by the story is that people aren't comfortable with going out and being among other people getting the test, so they can get a home test.
How can we remedy this, JP?
Yeah, so we roll out home tests so you can do, you can jab that thing up your nose and hurt yourself.
Yeah, so they want to, because it's not about, that it's not about, being sick. We all know this. It's not about, being sick. It's not a pandemic. It's a case-demic, right? So we know that the PCR test is flawed. I did a video, I think it was called Quackery, where I discovered through one of the doctors, I think it was Dr. Michael Yeadon, who some of you may know that name. I watched a few of his videos and I read a few of his reports. And my basic assessment is that the PCR test is nothing more than a DNA swab, like the kind of DNA that they would collect at a crime scene. So in my video sketchbook called Quackery, which you can find on our YouTube page, I sort of made that correlation. I said, why is my body, or why is your body, being used like a crime scene? Like, why do you need to take my DNA? So these positive coronavirus or COVID results that come from these DNA swabs, they're not really correct positives, right? So people are starting to wise up and realize that the PCR test is not what it is. And so the news, of course, thanks to Dawn showing us this headline, the news is saying, uh-oh, the tests are falling. We're not having as many people take the test. We better do something about that.
So this news story is nothing more than a marketing campaign for the home test.
Exactly.
And propaganda to get people to get home testing. It's clearly a nudge to get people to move over to accepting that, they can now test themselves at home, and that they should often do this. And I would imagine these tests are not free. How about you?
They're probably going to make a profit off of that.
But again, these things, whether they get used or not, the whole point of it is to propagandize to the public, to let them, to get them to do this, right? To nudge them. But also, whether these test kits are used or not, it is fine, because they've been produced, they've been distributed. The marketing campaign has been released to get people to use them. And so then the impact investors get the money that they invested in to produce this segment of the entire COVID scare. So, again, all these things are all about money. Okay?
Always.
And
always.
The impact investors will release bonds. There's pandemic bonds that go out. There was, I'm sure there's plenty of pandemic bonds that were created for COVID. There were certainly in Africa for
the vaccine?
No. What was that disease that
Ebola?
Ebola, right? Yeah.
This is just like that.
There were Ebola bonds that were issued that paid for those mobile care centers that would supposedly take care of people, right, or test them. Or it's the same story. It's just that it's not Ebola. It's COVID.
Yeah.
And it's not in Africa. It's here or all around the world. So the Ebola thing was a test case.
Mm-hmm.
How can we get these
bonds?
Let's test these bonds to see if we can get these medical supplies and materials and people out to these remote areas easily and quickly and make a big fuss about it and a big story about it, and raise a lot of awareness, because, you know, awareness helps sell the story, right? And so if they were able to do that in remote parts of Africa, they'll be able to do it everywhere, right? And so that was that was a test case for what we're dealing with today.
Right.
And again, you don't have to necessarily have a bunch of sick people. You can just tell us that there's a bunch of sick people.
Right.
You can tell us that, or they can tell you rather, that a bunch of people died. They're not going to show you the bodies.
Right.
They're just going to tell you that they died. And they're going to show you people who are sick. Okay? You're not there. You can't confirm that.
Right.
Okay, so again, this is part of the propaganda, and reading through that information that they're presenting to you on the screen. All the Ebola coverage that I heard was through the radio. I still don't watch TV, but I was listening to a hell of a lot of NPR back then.
Right.
And it sounded horrific.
Yeah, it really did.
It sounded
I remember seeing like misshaped baby heads.
Oh, that was Zika.
Oh, that was Zika, right. Oh, sorry.
Another
wrong
one, right?
Another one, right?
But the Ebola thing was just incredible. And, you know.
Oh, right. The bloody mouth.
Right.
Remember? Right. The guy would open his mouth and it would be filled with
and
blood.
So, you know, and we've been seeing.
It's like a horror movie.
We've been seeing a lot of footage of, you know, crisis actors in medical situations. There was one that came out recently apparently from Israel. Now, again, you know, this could be counter propaganda meant to, you know, work with the people who are anti-COVID or whatever the situation may be, and lift them up and be, you know, as you called it, controlled opposition, right? So there's all kinds of fuckery going on.
Oh, there is so much fuckery.
And you just have to pay attention to what's.
And that's a real term too. We're not swearing, so please don't take us down. Social media, that's a real term. You can find it in the dictionary.
Right.
If you still go to a dictionary,
even.
If you
still go to it, or dictionary.com.
Right. So I guess what we want to do is we want to talk about something that is really continues to concern us greatly. And one of the things over a year ago, when this whole thing was sprung on us so quickly, one of the most heartbreaking things that I've ever heard came from my husband. So as you know by now, and if you don't, I'll tell you again, we had careers and our careers abandoned us. And so we had to really make some big changes in our life, which were really scary. And we moved all the way across the country to try to, you know, get a roof over our head and do the best we could for ourselves. And he applied for jobs in his field, which is UX design and art. And even the perfect job, you know, he went in and he went on many interviews over quite a few months, and nothing was panning out. And even an interview that was literally had a cutout of his body and was perfect for him.
It was really written for me. Yeah.
They didn't hire him.
Yeah.
So clearly it could have something to do with our social credit score, our social score, which is important. It could have had something to do with the fact that we were these, you know, crazy newcomers from San Francisco who had decided to move all the way across the country, and nobody was really sure why. So he got the only job that he could get. Thank goodness for it. And it's going away soon. By June 1st, they said they're going to close the business up, and shutter forever. But it could be sooner than that. But it was driving kids to and from school. So he was a little school bus driver in a little van, not one of those big yellow ones.
Right.
But
I don't drive the big yellow ones.
But, you know, just a van where he's got like maybe half a dozen, 5 or 6 kids. So when this whole thing was sprung on us a year ago, there were tears. The children were like, but Mr. JP, why? Yesterday we were fine. I don't want to go home. I don't want to sit at home and be on a tablet. I want to go to school and play with my friends. And I don't understand. I'm not sick. I don't feel sick. Mom's not sick. My cousin's not sick. Like, what's going on? I
Right.
don't understand. I don't see evidence of any of
Right.
this. I mean,
The-
of course, they were speaking in the way 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds and 7-year-olds speak, which,
Right.
you know, they don't
Right.
use the terms like, I don't see evidence of this. They
Right.
say, I don't get it.
Right.
Nobody's
Well,
sick.
And there was one kid who was a little older. He was in 4th grade. He said, kids aren't susceptible to this
Right.
thing, because there had already been news reports and things about this whole, coronavirus, the novel coronavirus that was going around, and they were up to date. They knew what was being said in the propaganda, and they knew that that kids weren't susceptible. So they were like, why do we have to stop going to school
It's something that doesn't even affect us.
Right, exactly. And I couldn't answer their questions.
Because the adults at the school were acting crazy, especially Pittsburgh, which the adults in Pittsburgh tend to act like they're very emotional here. A lot of them, not all of them, but there's, it seems to be the general behavioral pattern here that I've noticed, is that especially the men here are infantilized children. And so, there's a lot of reactionary, a lot of emotional stuff that comes out and reactive. So I can easily see these poor children looking for direction, looking for guidance, looking for an answer, and not getting it from their teachers or their school administrators or even their parents. And so turning to Mr. Bus Driver.
Yeah. And I was
saying,
trying to help them as much as I could. I tried to explain to them as much as I could.
In like the 5 minutes he had with them,
Right.
Look, kids, it's not what you think it is. It's like,
Well,
don't wear the mask.
I'm busy driving. So there was a lot of tension, a lot of like confusion and fear, in the van. I had 5 kids, 3 5-year-olds and 2 older kids. Not much older. I mean, the oldest was, I think, in maybe 4th grade. Yeah. And so they weren't really old kids. They were younger children. And there was a lot of tension on the van. So it was hard to focus. It was hard to talk to them and deal with traffic at the same time.
Yeah.
It really felt like I was, I have to tell you that the feeling I had in my head was it felt like we were escaping something. Like I was driving through,
Wow.
Yeah, it was weird. It was like I was driving through like a war zone.
Right.
That's the feeling I had, picking up the energy from the kids and driving them home. It really felt like that to me.
So this takes me to this kind of sociopathic, narcissistic behavior where they create, this kind of high level emotion, and they create all of this chaos and all of this drama that is non-existent, but they literally create it out of nothing, so that people like JP and people like the children are feeling like they're escaping a war zone and, oh my gosh, we have to do something really quick. That's why from the very beginning, I was like, this thing just does not pass the sniff test.
Mm-hmm.
This feels like, somebody, like somebody's aunt who's the classic narcissist is acting out and, throwing a fit and making the whole family suffer as a result.
Yeah.
That is what this whole thing feels like. It feels immature. And when you start to, when the children start to get affected by it, in such terrible ways, and they don't understand what's going on, and they don't understand classic sociopathic narcissistic behavior because they're not old enough to grasp these nuanced behavioral traits. It angers me because I'm familiar with that kind of behavior, and it's unacceptable. And that's the attitude that many parents should have taken from the beginning, but they didn't, because they wanted to be, dutiful citizens and follow the rules and do the right thing and think, if I just do the right thing, pull my kid out of school, then we'll be able to get back to normal at some point. Or if I just put a mask on my kid or put him on the tablet. See, it's never enough. It's never enough. They're always going to want more and more and more from you.
Like you say all the time, it's like you can twist yourself into a pretzel and it still won't be enough.
Pleasing someone,
right?
And it just breaks my heart that these kids are being they're being
Transformed.
They're being transformed
And brainwashed. Yeah.
And 1 year ago, those 4 or 5 little kids that were full of energy and asking all the questions and demanding, that the right thing be done, are now probably completely indoctrinated, probably addicted to their mask, addicted to their computer screens, and have become a shell of what they once were. And it's when you change an individual, we all know that there's scientific evidence to back up the fact that masks can cause an increase in like bronchial pneumonia and oxygen flow to the brain, which will cause, learning disabilities or some kind of social, disabilities and things like that. But there is something so nuanced and something that is so vile about this whole thing, about how a person enters into this world, a strong, independent, thoughtful human being, and they are turning into the person that they will become in life. And that has been taken away from them. That the core of who they are as an individual has been removed from them over a lie.
Yeah.
And that is that's why people call this a spiritual war, because it feels so spiritual. It feels like an attack on your soul. And there's no excuse for that.
Right.
That's a crime against humanity, and we really need to understand that.
Right, and we need to pay attention to this, because this is what's going to be coming up in the future. Not with us talking about it, but in general, it's what's going to take place is the erasure of our individuality and what makes us who we are. Not in an individualist sense, like rugged individualism, but more like your very core essence of who you are, your humanity, and your soul. I mean, I'm just going to use the word because there's no better way to put it.
I don't know how else to explain it.
And so what we're seeing, and the masking is one of the first steps towards that. Okay. There's other things that are going to be coming along the way, and we'll talk about those in other videos coming up, because I don't want to really go into it right now, but our individuality, our essence, our humanity is part of what is intended to be stripped away. And that's, again, why everybody's feeling like, it's a spiritual war. It's some sort of war. People want to blame other countries and other systems of political systems. But I think what's going on is something much bigger, something deeper than just a political tendency taking over. This is a much larger overreach,
right,
of how we're going to live our lives in the future. And it's not just one country; it's all around the world, and it's the ruling class and the billionaires and the people who basically run the world, who are putting these things forward and setting them in engaging them to do this to us. Okay.
Yeah.
And ultimately it's going to be making us all the same. It's trying, the initiatives that are taking place are going to be erasing. So as I said before, erasure of our humanity and our individuality. It's going to erase everything and make us all the same. And like you said earlier today, that's why those characters that you see on social media, memes all the time, the non-action players, or
the NPCs, the non-performing characters,
right? Exactly, are so popular in memes, because I think that's a zeitgeist there that people are feeling, that their own humanity is being erased. They're being turned into NPCs.
So non-performing. So there's some gamers that we're connected to. So a lot of people play games online, and there are these, and most of you who follow us probably know this already, but in case you don't, the non-performing character or the NPC is just a generic sketched figure, just a head, like a gray head, who doesn't really do anything. He's just kind of like there in the background. He's not really, you know, he doesn't really do anything.
And so you'll see these come up in memes a lot. And,
right.
And yeah, so I think that the popularity of that character is there. And I think, you know, in popular culture, the vampire and zombie ideas, concepts that have been so popular and popularized are possibly a precursor and also, you know, sort of the zeitgeist of what we're dealing with. Now, again, they're metaphorical, they're not reality. And so I think, you know, again, that's why I think that zombie video, why that performance was done as part of you know, the zombies in
Belgium.
Switzerland. Yeah, it was this one I think was in Toronto. It said Dunder Square.
Oh, in Toronto.
Oh yeah, whoops, that's not it. I'm looking for it. It doesn't matter. But
yeah,
anyway, I think it was in Toronto. The video that we showed you of the zombies going down the street, like all dressed in white.
They were in white plastic.
So I think that is also tapping into, you know, again, this sort of like innate sense of what's actually taking place without actually being able to, you know, put your finger on it.
Right.
You know,
I think we're going to wrap this up. I know.
Yeah.
I know that's what you want to do, but I think it's really important that people hold on to their own value system and don't worry if the whole world around you never takes off their mask and sticks their arm out to get the jab happily, you know, and don't try to save them. The only time that this would actually affect you is if it pulls you into their world and drags you down with them. And so far from where we're sitting, you know, people all around us are wearing masks. Many people we know personally are getting the vaccine, but it hasn't affected us. It's not like we've got people, you know, banging on our door, forcing us to get a vaccine if we want to continue to be a part of, you know, living in our own home or whatever.
And I don't think that will happen.
No, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So don't worry too much about it, because you're not here to save the world. You're not here to be somebody else's scapegoat. You're not here to put yourself in danger just because you care so much.
And I think, you know, that crab in the bucket metaphor is also appropriate. And what I will say to that is if you don't allow yourself to invest in those crabs that are in the bottom of the bucket, they won't be able to pull you back down in with them.
Right, exactly.
Okay?
So
you'll be able to escape the bucket if you don't invest in what those crabs in the bottom of the bucket are doing.
Right. I bring this up because I'm seeing a lot of emotion on social media and in general in the world. And it has to do, again, like I said in the very beginning, it has to do with the fact that we have another holiday coming up, and people that anxiety is bubbling up in them because everybody in their family might be, you know, pro-vaccine or pro-mask, and maybe not understanding why you're not. And maybe you've always been the designated scapegoat. And so I urge you to, you know, stand your ground at the risk of sounding like a snake flagger. Stand your ground against these people. Try to follow people in real life who have this similar viewpoint as you. And don't set yourself up to be the scapegoat of the family again, right. Or of your church group or your social groups or whatever.
So the responsibility that you have is to be mindful of, you know, your behaviors and how that affects your interactions with these people. So, you know, there's lots of people out there talking about these subjects of scapegoats and narcissism. So, you know, it's worth looking into those things. If you yourself feel like, you know, you're in this situation and you don't know why.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah. And so,
well, we wanted to touch on it a little bit because it's something that we've processed years ago. We've gone through it already. And we incorporate this kind of thinking into our video work as we continue to diagnose things going on in the age of COVID and try to bring an artistic and creative analysis through all of this as well.
right.
We're not perfect,
Well, nobody is. And so
we, sometimes I don't get enough sleep and then I get a little grouchy on social media, but nobody's perfect, so.
yeah. Okay. Well, that's about it for this episode of Bookmark.
Yeah, a little bit different.
A little bit different. We're trying something new out. We're not sure if we're going to continue with this or not. We need to find out some more information, but I like it. I like doing something. I'm not usually a big fan of going live.
Right.
But I like
he
that-
really had to warm up to the idea of going live. He's never really been a big fan of it.
I've never been a big fan of it. Yeah. But I, because I like the control of recording and then editing and things like that. But
yeah, you're a designer, so you need it curated
right.
Perfectly.
It's nice that we can show video clips. So if we can show some stills, that would be awesome too.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. In the meantime, we discovered this through, the means of like interviewing people. So we're going to, have other people in the future. But for now, we're going to see where we go with Bookmark. We will be back in 2 weeks. So not next week, but I think Easter weekend. Is that it?
Yeah, maybe. That's why I wanted to bring up the holiday.
Yeah. So that was important. Yeah. So we won't be here next week, but Easter weekend,
right.
Easter Monday, I guess. So
yeah.
Anyway, enjoy the spring as it's springing. And please, you can support us by going to patreon.com/bookofhours or go to paypal.me/bookofhours and make a one-time donation. Any last words?
I want to thank our patrons. We've got Josette and Frida and Judith and Dawn and Guy and
lots of other people that I'm not coming up with.
Kate.
Yeah, Kate is our latest.
Yes, very happy to have Kate. So there's quite a few people that we're not mentioning here, but I just wanted to at least acknowledge a few of you, and we acknowledge everybody in our video essays. We are really excited about our latest video that's going to be coming out hopefully by the end of the week. And there's 2 others that are right behind them, right behind it.
We have 2 scripts. So we have 1 script recorded. We're working on the production now, and another script completed and ready to be recorded. So it's good. Yeah. So as things go along.
Yeah. So one of them is about right to property. This was brought up by a patron who said, can you guys do a video about this in your own creative way? So we thought that was an important subject matter. So we're going to address it. Another one is about globotics and robots. And JP had a lot of fun looking up robot videos for that one. What is it with boys and their robots?
You know what the thing is? I'm not even that thrilled with robots. It just was fascinating to watch some of these videos.
He was like glued to the
videos.
Also
just like, holy crap, they can do that.
Yeah.
That's the part that like is frightening and interesting at the same time. So
frightening and interesting.
I know I sound like another podcaster.
And then the third one is about we're going to do 4 different scenarios of the psychological effect of COVID, and it will be 4 true stories, but we're going to give them different genders, different names, and different locations, and different if they run a business, a different business. It's 4 people that we know, and we're going to.
One of them is a celebrity that everybody knows,
right? So we'll just go ahead and use his name, but yeah, it's about the sort of the psychological and manipulative effects of COVID and communitarianism, and so. It'll be done kind of in a Radio Lab style. I don't know if you're familiar with Jab, with radio.
Jad.
I always call him Jab. I don't know why. So Jad Abumrad, I believe is his name. He runs the show called Radio Lab. If you're not familiar with it, check it out. but it's going to be it's going to be done in that kind of style, but not exactly, because
Right.
it'll be us, so it'll be
Right.
different.
Yeah.
So
And there will be video to go along with it too. so,
4
yeah.
different stories and some cartoons in there, so it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
So
We're even talking about bringing Tori back. So
yeah,
we'll see
so
about that.
Tori suddenly sprang up out of nowhere yesterday.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
if you're not familiar with Tori Evening Star, this is a character that we created. Go to our YouTube page and look up Resilient Cities, and Tori will give you a demonstration of what Resilient Cities is. It's a
And-
very short little cartoon.
And also Greta Sales.
And Greta Sales as
Yeah,
well.
so-
So
All right.
Okay,
Time to
guys.
go, and we'll see you next time.
all right. Thanks
right.
for joining us
Thank
today.
you.
It was nice to have you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Book of Hours are artists here to empower and embolden your response to the constant negative sound bites that attack your news and social media feeds. In order to continue making the video essays and art you've come to enjoy, we need your support. Make a one-time donation or become a patron. Thank you.